Hello, Culture Matters podcast. We are back again with Beyond Order, 12 more rules for life. We're in rule 2, part 1. If you're following along and you haven't listened to rule 1 in Beyond Order and the beginning part 1 of my take and study and attempt to reflect back what I'm learning from this text and the synthesis of some of the other texts by Dr. Jordan B. Peterson and other books recommended, and the general synthesis of my journey as an advisor of company cultures, synthesizing these books and these rules and attempting to share them with you. This is part 1. Go check out, finish that thought, go check out Rule 1 of Beyond Order on the Culture Matters podcast, which is out. Do not carelessly denigrate social institutions or creative achievements. After this episode or before, you can listen to them in order or listen to them more out of order. No pun intended. Before I talk about Rule 2 of Beyond Order, which is this is part 1 of that rule, imagine who you could be and then aim single-mindedly at that. That's the rule I want to talk about and introduce to you today. Here's a quote I want to share. Something we cannot see protects us from something we do not understand. The thing we cannot see is culture in its intrapsychic or internal manifestation. The thing we do not understand is the chaos that gave rise to culture. If the structure of culture is disrupted, chaos returns. We will do anything to defend ourselves against that return. That's the opening preface or paragraph of the preface in Maps of Meaning, a book that the 12 Rules for Life, I believe the Antidote to Chaos, and Beyond Order 12 More Rules for Life have sprung from that textbook. I recommend buying it, reading it, studying it. It was written over a span of at least 15 years with great diligence from its author, Dr. Peterson, who's brought us here together on this in this series of exploratory dialogues with myself that you're participating in me. So today we are talking about Rule 2, coming from Rule 1. Rule 2, imagine who you could be and then aim single-mindedly at that. Now we've come from Rule 1, and I learned in Rule 1 not to denigrate social institutions. That would be, let's say our culture, right? Don't easily talk smack about things I don't fully understand or comprehend or couldn't. Don't talk smack so easily. Do not carelessly denigrate social institutions. So the culture at large, this thing we cannot see that protects us from what we do not understand. Don't carelessly denigrate or creative achievements in the sense and when I hear or think about creative achievements, I think about creative achievers as well. And I think there's an artful segue to Rule 2. Imagine who you could be and then aim single-mindedly at that in the context of the creative achievers aspect to it. It's as if Rule 1 it's inherently we're reacting to it. I'm reacting to it. I'm kind of like, oh, maybe I've been talking smack, um, as opposed to integrating my words and my thoughts and my actions in my own individual life to become clear on who I am as a consequence of what I want, what I don't want, the planning as a consequence of that, the people, and of course, work has to do with that. The work, the business, the people, the communities that it takes that I have to participate in to get my act together, get my life together, to contribute as an individual to society. That rule one, it's as if it's inherently reactive, right? I'm gonna react. Oh, I didn't think of it that way. Oh, I didn't see, look, I didn't realize I was doing that. I've been acting out reactive narratives. I don't have a grip over my life. I've let the zeitgeist of the time sweep me under its wake. And, what do I really have to show for my life if I'm speaking, as us readers? Rule two is taking us into practical steps. I think about the self-authoring program that's offered to write about the past, to write about our future, to write about the present, and that being a tangible tactical tool to imagine who I could be and aim single-mindedly at that. Now, for if you care at all, I did start the one of the it wasn't past or future. I think it was present. I think it was vice and virtues, like to going through. And I recommend. I've very little experience going through it, but so far I'm enjoying it. And so that's a practical takeaway, or let's say a practical tool I think could be helpful for any of us interested in imagining who we could be and then aim single-mindedly at that. So if rule one was reactive, let's say inherently reactive, don't don't do this. Rule two is proactive. You know, do this. And what the doing is, or the first we're comprehending, it starts off, who are you? And there's an argument being made that who we are has a relationship with who we could be, that has a relationship with who we have been, or what we've done, what has occurred in our lives. And it's important to um, take stock in that, and as well as what actually drives our individual integration, our individuality, our personality, our success in the sense of our meaningful development. And the argument is being made that stories, the stories we live by, the stories we believe, the stories that we read, the stories that we watch in movies and read in literature, the dramas that are a part of our culture, a part of our world, have truths in them that are incomprehensible, that influence our behavior. And the stories matter. And when the stories are not taken seriously, or the or even like attempted to be canceled or destroyed, we as individuals lose sight of who we are as um, creating and curating creatures, as opposed to um, you know, destroying and as opposed to destroying and disunifying um, tribes, individuals. So who are you and who could you be? Um, I think this makes me think, how do I know who I could be if I don't know, you know, what I want? And how do I know what I want or don't want if I'm not taking the lengths to study, to have mentorship, to be a student, to I think about rule one, the idea, a big part of rule one is to learn the rules of the game before and embody the spirit of the law. Be the apprentice before you become the teacher. Be the the um the apprentice before you become the master. Learn the system before you criticize and judge. If you don't learn it and embody it in your life, the less likely that you will be, I will be, we will be able to criticize clearly through our conscience when this actual system that we can easily take for granted is corrupt. We can confuse, are we corrupt or is the system corrupt? Are we corrupt or is the system corrupt? And it's both of us as individuals and the system can become corrupt and corrupted so very easily. And these stories that embody our human culture, because there's examples in Rule 2 of an ancient Mesopotamian myth in the Enuma Elish. These stories can teach us about our proclivities as individuals and as societies and as a species. So stories play a big role. We have our life story that's fitting in. And what we can learn from stories and what almost calls out to us in stories are the values, the virtues of the heroes. The heroes represent aspects of our potential of the agglomeration of personalities that make up all of us as individuals. We have all of these different personal realities or personalities or aspects of our personality, our personal reality that at varying degrees take over at certain times. I may need to be angry to protect my family from a wolf, or scared and then, angry. I may need to, well, be uh, sexually aroused to procreate and pass on the genes. I may need to be hungry to eat and thirsty to drink, etc. I may need, I guess that's inherently an argument in the maps of meaning, is that we are meaning perceiving machines. We don't see the tool, we see the outcome of its use. We are constantly, and we as individuals are constantly making value judgments based on feedback loops of based on what is and what could be. And the should part, like we believe it should be this or it should not be that. It should be this, it shouldn't be that. That's a component of our psychology and culture, the culture, the history, the stories that represent our past, imbibe us with lessons to not repeat the deconstructive elements of our nature and destroy culture. So an example in the Enuma Elish that's used in Rule 2, and I love this story. Imagine who you could be and aim single-mindedly at that, is this Tiamat character who is with Apsu, and they represent the world essentially, and Apsu, and they have children, these elder gods who forget, they forget about, they take for granted. Basically, they don't live rule one. They carelessly denigrate social institutions and creative achievements. They carelessly denigrate. They don't integrate with the past and bring it into the future to artfully separate the wheat from the chaff and figure out how to make the world uh, better. They just tear it down and they destroy Apsu and live on, make the world out of his corpse. And Tiamat responds in kind by creating these monsters to fight them. And there's this really amazing quote that stuck out to me. I took a note on, which was, "You choose one. The children." Um, where is it? I took a lot of notes. So many notes. It's actually overwhelming. Um, when ignorance destroys culture, monsters emerge. So the ignorance of the children of Tiamat and Apsu lead to the killing of Apsu, Tiamat responding by coming together with Kingu and having these monsters respond. This chaos returns, right? If the structure of culture is disrupted, chaos returns. We will do anything to defend ourselves against that return. These monsters arise, and the elder gods are unable to actually fix things. They can't put their house in order. Fix, they can't win. They're losing against these monsters. And part of the argument in the literature is that what is a monster? A monster is a representation of a disintegrated personality. Because he's Dr. Peterson's making an argument that that the polytheistic polytheism was a cycle was a what a special representation of the disintegration of our various personalities, which in the absence of that integration, I'm adding this, there's a less likelihood for trust, cooperation, mutual benefit. We're not gonna be able to play games with one another for long. So now, an example, you don't want to trade with someone you think is going to steal from you. But the monster represents the lack of integration of the all of the different personalities, and that's mythologized or yeah, in these polytheistic religion, that these polytheistic stories, that there's all these different heroes that represents different personalities, these different gods that represent all these different personalities, and so the journey from polytheism to monotheism, he's making an argument which has to do with our individual integration, our ability to, I think, uh, uh, orient ourselves in relation to the unknown, in a meaningful way with our thoughts, words, and actions, them to be of integrity, integrated. We're more honest and less deceitful, both commission and omission. Um, this story, back to, I didn't talk about Marduk, but these elder gods end up having Marduk, who's going to fight um, the monsters, or fight Tiamat rather, and get this helmet of destiny or something, this tablet of destiny, and essentially Marduk is going to fight and win and represent the integration of those personalities into individuality. And there's something about paying attention, right? Learning the lessons of the past, not just throwing away throwing away the social institutions and creative achievements and tearing it all down, because you be careful what you wish for. There are things that you didn't fully learn and integrate into your personality, into your individuality, to get those all the different personalities that we have, or capacities for personal reality and personality that we have as individuals. We won't be able to actually have a society or have a civilization if we just throw the baby out with the bathwater. And this Marduk is represent this hero is an example of the I guess the foreshadow to the monotheistic religions, which make a strong call to action to the sovereignty of the individual and the capacity for each of us to live to the highest of our potential in our good words, our good thoughts, and good deeds, like Zoroaster would have said or something. So who are you and who could you be? I think I look at this chapter and I think this is helping me and us as the readers think about what we can actually do to put that we can actually do something of benefit for our lives, that we actually can um, take on responsibility and make the world better, and aspire to, and that the heroes throughout these stories teach us who we could be, and that there's meaning to that, and that it matters who we could be, and that if we do good deeds, there will be fruit there. If we do good deeds, our life will pay dividends. If we do bad deeds, there will be pestilence, there will be pain and suffering. And Dr. Peterson's making an argument that stories help us orient and make those choices even below our awareness. And that, so like even the opening paragraph, how do you know who you are? After all, you're complex beyond your own understanding, more complex than anything else that exists, excepting other people. complex beyond belief, and your ignorance is further complicated by the intermingling of who you are with who you could be. And I guess the same thing could be said for the society at large, for the culture, what the culture is and what the culture could be. And there's this inherent push pull, right? But like between the leadership of the organization and the like the executive team and the people, there's a constant push pull between that and if we're going to use a business analogy and the CEO of that, the chief among those executives, how they rule, how they rule, how much trust develops as a consequence of their leadership, their ability to listen, their ability to pay attention, their ability to tell the truth. Because when they stop paying attention, like Apsu and Tiamat, the children might forget what matters and why it matters. Culture matters and destroy what has been taken for granted. There is a tension. It does need to change and improve. The culture does need to change and improve. The world is constantly in flux, and in that tension, it's part of like the opportunity for life is that there's this tension with the world, and it can improve. It could improve. It has a potential to improve, but we've got to be careful we don't lose our spirit in the process of attempting to improve the world. And so there's this there's this tension between culture and its movement forward and individuals in our movement forward as individuals. And it's inevitably going to lead to conflict. There is an inherent tension between the culture's change and individuals as we have the capacity for change, for the worse and for the better. I guess this is why one of the resounding themes in Dr. Peterson's work is to aim high. And then that's the thing. Some people are just aiming low, and that there's a percentage of people that are just aiming as low as possible. If we don't aim high, we're not going to counterbalance all the people that are not even aiming. And I guess that's the thing. If you're not aiming, if I'm not aiming and you're not aiming and we're not aiming, we're going to end up carelessly denigrating social institutions and creative achievements. So imagine who you could be and then aim single-mindedly at that. And the stories that make up our culture they teach us things about what it is that we can't fully comprehend or understand, not only about ourselves, but about the world and our species and civilization. And it's important to learn those stories and understand those stories and what they represent of our individuality. And some tactical things we can do is that's where you hear the business pundits, people like me telling you, what's your plan? What's the business's vision? What are the values? What's the purpose of the business? How does it solve problems for the customers? You know, why does the business exist? What does it do? And how can each of us that work for the business add to that business's success by clarifying what it is we do and why we do it and how we serve and putting in the work, being engaged and sacrificing and invested into our work. Because as a consequence of that, our lives become more meaningful and the business is more successful. There's more profit, there's more reinvestment depending on this is the stewards of the culture, the management of the culture, the Apsu or the Osiris, and so on. And but Marduk, if you don't know Osiris's story, I think you can listen to chapter 4 or rule 4. Notice that opportunity lurks where responsibility has been abdicated. Marduk represents our capacity to voluntarily descend into the abyss, reintegrate or integrate our various capacity for personality, get all our personality potential for our potential personalities or personhood in its proper order, so we can voluntarily venture into the unknown and slay the dragon to get the treasure and then bring it back home to save the culture, to save the world, That's what the heroes do. They save the world. And the heroes represent something for us, that we all actually save the world for ourselves by avoiding hell and developing a meaningful life. And by doing that, the world actually does get better, or in theory could. And that you should do that. I should do that. We should do that. We should aim as high as we possibly can. We should imagine who we could be and then aim single-mindedly at that. And we should not carelessly denigrate social institutions or creative achievements. And I could keep going. This is part one of rule two of Beyond Order, 12 more rules for life. I challenge you to pick up 12 rules for life and an antidote to chaos and maps of meaning. And please share this with a friend who's not been exposed to Dr. Peterson's work, who has a misguided or uninformed view of the work, because there's many people I've come across that don't know the work, but have heard the name. And explore yourself. How, who could you be, and who could you be, and what can you do to model some of the heroes that you admire? What do they do, and what can you do? Um, I have. I, I would say there's notes on every page. This is part one. I want to come back to this and go deeper on the next, but you know, I'll leave us with this last page. I've underlined so much here that how to act is the last subchapter of the chapter two, rule two. Um, People exchange information about how to act in many ways. They observe each other and imitate what they see. When they imitate, they use their bodies to represent the bodies of others. But this imitation is not mindless, automatized mimicry. It is instead the ability to identify regularities or patterns in the behavior of other people and then to imitate those patterns. What patterns are you imitating? What patterns am I imitating? What value am I bringing to the world and to my team and to my life? Aim at something on page 86. Pick the best target you can currently conceptualize. Stumble towards it. Notice your errors and misconceptions along the way. Face them and correct them. Get your story straight. Past, present, future, they all matter. You need to map your path. You need to know where you were so that you do not repeat the mistakes of the past. You need to know where you are, or you will not be able to draw a line from your starting point to your destination. You need to know where you are going, or you will drown in uncertainty, unpredictability, and chaos and starve for hope and inspiration, for better or worse. And that right there, that reminds me of rule six, abandon ideology. We're more likely to fall into malevolence if we are unclear on where we've come from, where we are going, and where we are. Please share this with a friend. Go check out the other rules of Beyond Order. Leave us a review on the Culture Matters podcast. I'll see you next time for rule three. Do not hide unwanted things in the fog. Beyond Order.